Greetings, students. Today we're going to foray into the fantastic field of fractions. A fraction is basically a ratio comparing something to a total. The bottom represents the total. Well, let's go right to it on this video over here. I look at this shape, I'll draw a rectangle. If I cut it up into 3 pieces, we write our fraction with the bottom of 3. And the bottom, basically, the base tells us the total number of shapes there are. In this case, we have 3 smaller rectangles in the bigger shape. Now let's say I shade in 2 of those rectangles. And if I want to figure out the number of shaded regions, I just count. There are 1, 2. So the top number is going to be 2. And again, I'm defining that as the shaded region. If I wanted to define it as the number of unshaded regions, it would be 1 over 3. Now let's say I take a look at that shape and I do something like cut it in half down the middle. Now I didn't change the size of the shape, I didn't do anything to the shape. As you can see, this shape has a different number of shapes now. It has 6 shapes in there. So our bottom number, our total number of interior shapes is 6. The number of shaded regions is now 4. So again, I didn't do anything to the shape other than put a line through it, but that changed the fraction. Now let's say I cut it into 9 equal pieces, like right here. I have a total of 9 pieces, which goes on the bottom. And if I count, I have 6 shaded regions. So again, our fraction has changed to 6 over 9, even though I didn't change the size of the shape. I just cut it down the middle or cut it into thirds. Now to summarize so far, we know that the fraction 2 over 3 is the same as 4 over 6. We showed that. The question is, how do you turn a 2 into a 4? Well, you just multiply by 2. And if I look at the bottom, how do I turn a 3 into a 6? I notice that I do the exact same thing. I multiply the bottom by 2. Well, what about the other fraction, 2/3 and 6/9? Does that work the same way there? Well, let's take a look. We know they're the same. So how do you turn a 2 into a 6? Well, I know I have to multiply 2 times 3 is 6. And if I do the same thing to the bottom, 3 times 3 is 9. So it looks like whatever I do to the top number of my fraction, I do the exact same thing to the bottom. So let's take a look at all 3 of these fractions. We got 2/3 that are equal to 4/6, and it's also equal to 6/9. But my question is this then. I know how to turn a 2 into a 4 and a 2 into a 6. How do you turn a 4 into a 6? If you're not good with multiplying by decimals, you could do this. Let's rearrange those 3 fractions. And let's just switch the first 2. Since they're both the same, it doesn't matter what order I put them in. I look and I know how to turn a 4 into a 2. I can divide by 2. And I should do the exact same thing to the bottom. We learned that with the other 2 fractions. I'll divide the bottom by 2. So I know how to turn a 4/6 into a 2/3, and I also know how to turn a 2/3 into a 6/9. 2 times 3 is 6, and 3 times 3 is 9. So now I know how to turn a 4/6 into a 6/9. I just divide by 2 and then multiply by 3. Now if you're like, I don't want to do all that work, I just want to know what number that is, you could look at the dividing by 2 and the multiplying by 3. That means 3 divided by 2. So whatever you're multiplying by goes inside the box, and the dividing goes outside the box. So I know that 2 goes into 3 one time, and I multiply that out. 1 times 2 is 2. I subtract that to get 1. I have to add my decimal point, drop the 0 down to make that into a 10. So 2 goes into 10 5 times. 5 times 2 is 10. 10 minus 10 is 0. So basically, if I want to turn a 4/6 into a 6/9, I have to multiply the top and bottom by 1.5. So 4 times 1.5 is 6, and if you want to double check, there are a couple ways you could do it. 4 times 1 is 4, and then 4 times a half, or half of 4 is 2. So 4 plus 2 is 6. Do the same thing to the bottom. 6 times 1 is 6, half of 6 is 3, 6 plus 3 is 9. It does work out. So I hope you enjoyed this intro to fractions and converting fractions from one form to another, either by multiplying or dividing. There are a few more videos right over here you could click on and enjoy. Make sure to share it, make sure to like it, that ensures that other people get to see it and YouTube shares with everybody out there. Have a great day, and for you guys that are in my class, I'll have a worksheet attached with this. The rest of you guys, just try to work out some problems. Have a great day and keep on mathin'.